Hello and welcome to Nice and Blunt. It's Wednesday and it's time to rank some wide receivers. So these are my top 40 half PPR rankings for week 12. Let's go. All right. So number one, I think it should be obvious. It's Cooper Kupp going up against Green Bay. And even though this is on paper a difficult matchup, Cooper Kupp has been matchup proof. Clearly the number one wide receiver this year, so I'm not worried about it at all. They're coming off a bye, and they're going to be prepared. At number two, I got Deebo Samuel versus Minnesota, who, even though he's been getting more work in the running game, is still an elite wide receiver, a lock-it-in top 5 option, and there's no way you're benching Deebo Samuel. At number three, I got Devontae Adams, and he takes a bit of a step down because he does get a difficult matchup against Jalen Ramsey in this game. So that's the only reason I'm lowering expectations for Devontae Adams, but still, there's no way you're going to bench him. He is still matchup proof. At number four, I got Justin Jefferson, who's coming off a really good hot streak, a great game last week, and I think he has a chance to repeat at least one touchdown and over 100 yards in this one. So I love Justin Jefferson. Don't be surprised if he is lights out rest of season as the Vikings make their playoff push. At number five is Jamar Chase versus Pittsburgh, who I think will get right after kind of a down game recently. And I do not think Joe Hayden will be able to stop him. I think Jamar Chase will definitely get in the end zone. At number six, Keenan Allen, my boy at Denver. And this is close to where I had him coming into the year because he's returned the expectations that I originally had. Since the bye in the last 4 games, Keenan Allen has seen an average of 12 targets, either 11 or 13 in the last 4 games. And with that double-digit workload, you trust the floor with Keenan Allen and you hope for a touchdown. That's the only question mark, and that's why I've got him at number 6. I really trust Keenan Allen. At number 7, Stephon Diggs, who has the potential to blow up and be the number 1 wide receiver, but he is going up against Marshawn Lattimore, which is a bit of a difficult matchup, so that's why I've downgraded him just to number 7. Still a top 10 option. Can't bench him either. At number 8, I got Chris Godwin. And usually I have Mike Evans at the top of the Tampa Bay wide receivers, but he missed practice yesterday with what's reported as a back strain, I believe. So that's the only reason why I have Chris Godwin higher this week. I think they may favor targeting him a little bit more just to keep Mike Evans as healthy as possible. I think Mike Evans will play, but I'll let you know where I rank him a little bit later. At number 9 is Deontay Johnson. However, I just want to mention CD Lamb real quick. There's a chance that he may play. He was a full participant in practice, and even though he is dealing with a concussion, and it's a surprise to me that he'll be ready to go, he just needs to clear with an independent neurologist, but otherwise he's ready to play. So we'll see, but if he does suit up, he would be a top 10 option. He kind of gets a difficult matchup against Casey Hayward, but I think CD Lamb is talented enough where it doesn't matter. At number 9 is Deontay Johnson at Cincinnati, who would be slotted down one spot if CD were to suit up. But I trust the workload with Deontay Johnson, even though this is a technically difficult matchup here in Orange. I don't worry about it. Deontay Johnson has consistently seen double-digit targets, and I really trust his floor, although he doesn't always score a touchdown. That's the only red flag. And number 10 is Terry McLaurin versus Seattle. Had a great game last week in a difficult matchup. And against Seattle, I don't think that you should worry about this. I think he's very safe and should blow up for about 15 plus points. And I really love Terry McLaurin's ceiling in this game. And number 11 is where I have Mike Evans. I do think he'll suit up, and you're definitely not going to bench him if he plays. Mike Evans is always very safe, definitely a top 12 wide receiver. And number 12 is Marquise Brown, who was a surprise inactive last week, going up against Cleveland this week, and there's a chance that he doesn't suit up, so monitor his status. But I think given his injury concerns, he may be a little bit limited and not the typical top 5 wide receiver that he has been this season. I think Rashad Bateman will be a little bit more involved, and obviously Mark Andrews is always a threat to steal all of the red zone targets. At number 13, I got DK Metcalf at Washington, and he should blow up in this game. On the season, Washington's defense hasn't been great, but recently they have been getting a little bit better. But DK should get the targets and connect down the field at least once or twice in this game, and I think he'll score a touchdown. He's definitely a safer bet to do that than Tyler Lockett. So that's why I have him as the number 1 Seattle wide receiver, but it hasn't really been working out lately. and I think it will sort itself out eventually. But for now, I'm not willing to rank him inside the top 10 until I see it. At number 14, I got Michael Pittman, who I think will have a big bounce back game. Last week was just dominated by Jonathan Taylor on the run, and Tampa Bay is better at defending the run than the pass. So I think Carson Wentz will connect with Michael Pittman on at least one touchdown, possibly two, because this could turn into a shootout, and he's going to be a very safe option. But I'm not really sure he goes over 100 yards in this game. The Tampa Bay secondary has gotten much healthier recently, and it's looking much better than about a month ago. At number 15 is Darnell Mooney, who I love in this game against Detroit. I think he's going to be showcased for Matt Nagy to try and save his job. I really don't think that Allen Robinson is going to play. He's doubtful at the moment, and he's dealing with a hamstring injury. He missed last game. I don't think that Allen Robinson will suit up. And Darnell Mooney got 16 targets on Sunday, so it's a much easier matchup. There's no one on Detroit's secondary that concerns you in the way that Marlon Humphrey does. So I think Darnell Mooney could see another double-digit targets and could be a top 10 wide receiver like he was last week once again. So I really trust his floor. I think he is a must start in week 12. At number 16, A.J. Brown, who I would bench for Darnell Mooney if I had the opportunity to do that. Going up against New England, you know he's going to be double teamed, and there's a chance that he's completely shut out to like one or two catches. So I really don't like the prospects for A.J. Brown, but at the end of the day, there's enough volume so that it gives him the chance to break one of those tackles and take it to the house. So I don't think I would bench A.J. Brown for too many other players, but definitely lower your expectations against the Patriots. If Antonio Brown happens to play going up against Indianapolis, I don't think that's going to happen, but if it were to happen, then I would also bench A.J. Brown for Antonio Brown. I think he's a safer bet to get in the end zone. At number 17, though, behind A.J. Brown, is Adam Thielen at San Francisco, and he's been pretty consistent with the touchdowns recently, but I definitely think Kirk Cousins is favoring Justin Jefferson, and Adam Thielen does carry some risk because if he doesn't get in the end zone, he very rarely puts up more than 60 yards. So I don't really trust his receiving stats, and that's why he's a low-end wide receiver too, with a decent touchdown upside. At number 18 is Tyler Lockett, who is starting to garner a little bit more trust. I have him on a roster, and the first game back with Russell Wilson, he didn't connect, but last week he went over 100 yards once again. So there's a lot of upside with Tyler Lockett. At some point, he will get into the end zone, but there is always some risk because if he doesn't connect on those deep plays, he doesn't really get you much. So play at your own risk, but I still think Tyler Lockett is a top 20 play. I would play him over Michael Gallup, though, because I think going up against Las Vegas, if he's the number one wide receiver against Casey Hayward, I don't really love the upside for Michael Gallup. I think he'll be held without a touchdown, and even though the volume will be high, he'll see double-digit targets. I think the catch percentage could be low like it was last week. He only caught 5 of those 10 targets in last week's game, and I'm a little bit worried that he could be shut down by Casey Hayward. But if CeeDee Lamb starts and he gets the Casey Hayward coverage, then I feel like Michael Gallup still would come in basically at the same range, around wide receiver 19 to like 22. Because, yes, the targets would come down, but the coverage would be a lot easier. So I think it's more likely he scores a touchdown if CeeDee Lamb does play, and that's why I still think he's a viable wide receiver 2 this week. But to round out my top 20, I got Mike Williams going up against Denver, and we saw his potential last week. He can always break one big play for a touchdown to the house. However, without that one play, there was definitely a low floor for Mike Williams. So he carries some risk, and Keenan Allen has definitely become the wide receiver to own in LA for the Chargers. So that's why I have him this low, but I still trust him. He has more upside than pretty much anybody else I'm about to mention outside the top 20. At number 21 is DJ Moore, who has a good matchup against Miami. I don't think he'll be stopped, but last week he scored a touchdown, and it's very rare that DJ Moore scores, so I don't think he's going to score in back-to-back weeks. And in the last 4 games, his volume has been coming down, maximum 8 targets and exactly 7 in the last 3 straight games. So a little bit of risk with DJ Moore, but he still offers a decent floor when he does get the ball. He has a pretty high yards per reception average. Right behind him, Elijah Moore going up against Houston, so back-to-back Moores. And I believe in the workload for Elijah Moore. The only risk here is that Zach Wilson doesn't get him the ball enough. He may favor his favorite target, Corey Davis. But I think at this point, the coaching staff wants to establish Elijah Moore as their go-to option, especially down the field and in the red zone. So I like his upside. He's been red hot lately, and I think you can count on the workload once again. But this is the only variable. We're going to see if Zach Wilson can get it done and get Elijah Moore involved. But I still love his upside, and I trust this hot streak. At number 23, Brandon Cooks, who really disappointed me last week. I had him inside the top 18, and he let me down. A big dud from Brandon Cooks, so he slides down, but he has a good matchup this week, so I can't rank him too low, and I still trust the volume. I don't think it's going to be as rough as it was last week. It was a division game last week, so I think the Titans really wanted to limit Brandon Cooks, but they let everybody else get the job done. So I think he'll have a bounce back, but I don't really love the touchdown upside for Brandon Cooks, and that's why I only have him at number 23. Starting to hit flex territory here, but Brandon Cooks is definitely just more of a floor play. If you want an upside play, go for Brandon Ayuk at Jacksonville, who's my wide receiver 24 in Week 12. He's had some pretty good games. He had one dud 2 weeks ago, but otherwise he's been much more involved, and he's out of the doghouse, definitely. I think Deebo Samuel's rushing role isn't going anywhere, and that really opens up the field for Brandon Ayuk. He's one of the few route runners who is definitely going to see some targets. So I like the upside for Brandon Ayuk, and I think you can count on him as a decent flex play the rest of the season. He could be a league winner if he keeps this up. At number 25, I got Devontae Smith at the Giants, and I love his upside. I think he could blow up for a big game, but he is going up against James Bradbury. So this is a difficult matchup, and I don't think he's going to be completely shut down, but he may not go over 100 yards, and that's why I'm lowering my expectations for Devontae Smith a little bit. But I think he has a chance to really explode and be a valuable asset rest of season. The young players in the NFL usually pop in the second half of the season. At number 26, I got Hunter Renfrow, and I trust the volume, but it's really rare that he goes over 60 yards receiving, and Dallas is more vulnerable against deep passes. So you're kind of counting on a touchdown, but he'll definitely see at least 7 or 8 targets, I think. The Raiders are definitely going to be trailing against the Cowboys. And at 27, I got Jalen Waddle versus Carolina. And usually you trust his workload. However, I don't like this matchup at all. They've been really good, and I think Tua is really going to struggle. So I don't love the ceiling for Jalen Waddle. I don't think he scores a touchdown, and you're really banking on the volume. But like Hunter Renfrow, I think it's going to be unlikely that he goes over 60 yards in this game. At number 28 is Chase Claypool, who is a little bit up and down, a little bit of a roller coaster, slightly difficult matchup, and you definitely prefer to start Deontay Johnson over him. But last week he had a good blow-up game. I don't know if this game is going to be as competitive, as much of a shootout as that Chargers game was. So I don't think they're going to put up as many points against this division rival, and that's why I'm a little bit worried about the ceiling for Chase Claypool. But he could get in the end zone. That is always a possibility. At number 29 is Jerry Jeudy going up against my Chargers, and this is a difficult matchup, especially with Derwin James lurking as the safety. But Jerry Jeudy just hasn't had the ceiling this year. He's been much more of a floor play since he's returned from injury, and I think the injury that he suffered is a big factor here. A high ankle sprain is not something that is easy to recover from, and it usually takes at least a year removed from to be fully back to 100%. So I don't really love the upside for Jerry Jeudy rest of season, and I think the game plan for this one for the Broncos is to run the ball as much as possible against a weak Chargers run defense. So don't love the upside for Jerry Jeudy, but the floor keeps him in flex range. He's definitely the number one in Denver, though. At number 30, I got T. Higgins, who really let me down like Brandon Cooks last week with only 3 targets and 2 receptions in what I thought was going to be a good matchup. So I lost a lot of trust in T. Higgins, and there's a lot of stats that point to him being outside the top 30 among wide receivers on a per game basis. But there are a decent amount of players injured or on bye who would be ranked ahead of him, so that's why he still sneaks into the top 30. I don't think it's going to be as bad as it was last week. I think it'll be a bit of a bounce back, and I'm sure Joe Burrow wants to get T. Higgins involved. It just didn't happen last week. And number 31 is Van Jefferson, who I think is the number 2 wide receiver for the Rams that you want. And against Green Bay, this is kind of a difficult matchup, but there's a chance that Cooper Kupp is a little bit limited in the red zone and Van Jefferson is looked for. I think there's a lot of shootout potential in this matchup, and there may be a little bit more attention on Odell Beckham Jr. if he pops 1 or 2 big plays early in the game. They may leave Van Jefferson a little bit alone. So I think his upside is decent at the end zone, and that's why I got him at number 31 over Rashad Bateman, who is my number 32 wide receiver going up against Cleveland at home. And it's Sunday night, and there's a chance for a prime time explosion. But if Marquise Brown starts, then I think the upside is kind of capped for Rashad Bateman because Mark Andrews definitely dominates in the red zone. And Rashad Bateman becomes rather touchdown dependent with kind of low odds to score. So that's why I would temper expectations with Bateman, but still, he does have some upside. At number 33, I got Kendrick Bourne, who is my preferred wide receiver in New England. I think he has the most upside, but there is very little volume for the Patriots. Mac Jones rarely pushes the ball deep down the field, so you got to bank on the yards after the catch with Kendrick Bourne. He has the chance to take it to the house from anywhere. However, it's not a lock that happens every game. So there is some risk with Kendrick Bourne. Don't love him too much. But at number 34, I got Emmanuel Sanders, and the same applies for him. He does have some risk that he doesn't score and kind of gets shut out. But I do think he does have more upside than Cole Beasley in this one. But I'm a little bit worried about the touchdown upside because I think Dawson Knox is the number 2 option in the red zone behind Stephon Diggs now that he's back. At number 35, though, I got Corey Davis at Houston, and he was Zach Wilson's favorite target before he got injured. So there's a chance that he really blows up in this game. I think the upside is there, but Elijah Moore may hog the targets. But this is a good matchup against Houston, but there is shootout potential. I don't know if this game is going to be a blowout by the Texans or a really close shootout by both teams. So I think Corey Davis does offer some upside, but it's hard to trust more than one Jet. I definitely prefer Elijah Moore in this game. But it is worth noting that Michael Carter has been ruled out. So there's fewer players that they trust for the Jets that will need to step up. So Corey Davis could have a good game. At number 36, I got Jarvis Landry, and I'm worried about this matchup against Marlon Humphrey, and especially with Baker Mayfield really banged up. I think they're going to run the ball as much as possible, so don't love the upside with Jarvis Landry, but he is a decent floor play. He looks to be the most healthy wide receiver in Cleveland. At number 37 is Marvin Jones versus Atlanta, and I don't love the upside for the Jaguars. There's little to be excited about, but if you have to play one of them, I prefer Marvin Jones. Jamal Agnew did go down, so there could be a few more targets, but maybe a few more punts for the Jaguars offense as well. At number 38, Cortland Sutton versus the Chargers, and he didn't have much upside the last time he played. He had very few targets, and I think they're going to favor the run. So not too excited, but he is a decent floor play. I don't think he's going to be as bad as he was the last time he played. And then Marquise Goodwin offers some interesting upside here at Detroit. I don't think Allen Robinson is going to suit up, and last game he did put up a big stat line. So he could be targeted down the field and break one for a touchdown. You never know with Marquise Goodwin. And then number 40, Odell Beckham Jr. Does offer some potential, but I wouldn't trust it too much. I do think they're going to get him involved, but I don't trust OBJ. Okay, so that's going to wrap up this video. These are my top 40 wide receiver rankings. And if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more content. I'll have some must-start plays later on in the week, and quarterback, tight end, and defensive streamers out tomorrow. All of my rankings for every position except kicker. But if you're looking for running back rankings, I'll have that right here. But until next time, my name is Adam Riancho, and thank you for watching Nice and Blunt.